Hello everyone and welcome back. Really? I don't let stupid YouTube fucking play their shite ads that will get me copyrighted, and this is how they repay me. Okay, first off, YouTube, you're a bender. Second off, you want to explain to me why several of my videos recently have got a copyright strike for no fucking reason. That's probably the most disturbing thing. Honestly. One of the videos, the Sniper Elite video, it was 20 seconds of a video of a song because that was my alarm for lunch. But apparently I can't do that anymore because apparently that's illegal. Apparently not concerning copyright infringement rights. But no, apparently not. And the second reason I can't seem to find a proper reason for. So, fuck you, YouTube. Right. Sorry, I was cleaning up my room a bit. Alright. Also, by the way, guys, me and my friend Fred420, as his Xbox gamer tag goes, I've been repairing a couple of his guns. Right. If you know the Raider CS35, this bad boy, you know that this gun was made in the old sort of eras. But basically, a gun, well, a Nerf dart had got jammed in the barrel chamber area. One was stuck, folded in on itself about here, and there was a bullet orange dart piece stuck in the corner down there. Fuck off. There's a sniper one that Fred has that has basically the loading. It's a bolt action sniper. It's long strike something, but basically the thingy is got taken off, and he has a Raven, but the springs on that are rusted. So yeah.
Perhaps a place.
Right. So point of the video. Why we're here, not just so I can rant about some random shit that YouTube have taken away, done to me for no reason, which I'll get back to in some other time. We are here to watch the most disturbing videos. So before I watch this video, I must say, if you are easily disturbed, do not watch, because I do not want to receive a hospital bill for causing PTSD. Thank you. I have barely any money, and I'd rather not get a ton of money shoved out of my wallet. So before that happens, enjoy the video if you're not one of those pussies.
For anyone living in a house, odds are your house has an attic in it.
Yep.
Perhaps a place in your house you spend the least amount of time in.
Yep.
If you ever hear sounds coming from up there, sounds that almost make you wonder if something's up there.
No. Don't know what kind of attic you have, mate, but that's slightly concerning. You might want to call a priest.
Of course, it'll usually be dismissed as house settling noises, because who would ever imagine that someone or something would actually be up in your attic, or God forbid on your roof, right? Well, these videos may make you want to install cameras.
We already have cameras, fuck you!
Jerome and Ashley Kennedy, a Pittsburgh couple, along with their 10-month-old baby,
Fatty!
comfortable,
Sorry.
unbeknownst to what was going on about their house and their own home. The row house next door that was being renovated was owned by 73-year-old Robert Havrilla, who's described by the couple as very reclusive and known to keep to himself. Jerome was in bed one night when he heard noises above him in the attic, the kinds of noises that weren't just house noises. He knew somebody was up there. Then he noticed a light shining through a pipe, as if it were searching for a place to look through. So Jerome installed a surveillance camera in his attic, and a day later, caught on tape was many people's worst nightmare. His neighbor Robert in his attic, carrying a power drill, looking into the bedroom. His neighbor had made a removable wall to gain access to their attic. It wasn't just the attic, though. Jerome also found perfectly round holes in the common wall between the two row houses. The shapes indicate that Robert the neighbor was drilling holes through the wall. Cops were called, and Robert was charged with stalking and trespassing, which he pled not guilty to. Robert's attorney made a statement that his client had no bad intentions. He claims he was in the attic for maintenance reasons connected to his renovations, not to peep on anyone or do anything malicious.
So your renovation plans include going into your neighbour's house for no reason, and also I'm pretty sure there's a thing where you have to ask permission for such reasons. You cannot just go into other people's house and start renovating your own house because, see, this is how stupid his plan is. I'm having snacks because I'm hungry and I don't want to steal food from the cupboard.
Anybody with half a brain would know this is BS. The many holes drilled in the common wall and through the ceiling in the attic were without a doubt meant to spy on his neighbors. Strangely enough, it appears Robert was aware of the camera that Jerome had placed, as he looks right at it in this frame, so why he continued to do what he did is unknown. This anonymously submitted video to a channel called Handle Bandle starts with a young guy explaining how the dry boxed food that he and his girlfriend had left in the garage was mysteriously torn open and scattered across the floor.
Or open in the front or the back door open, but when we were still moving our food in, we left a lot of our box food here in the garage. And when we came out, I think it was a couple days ago, I think it was a Thursday in the morning, the box food, the dry food that we had, was all torn open and scattered across the garage floor. Since then, we sweeped it out and cleaned it up and everything, but something got in here and tore a big hole in the side of some of those boxes. But anyway, with this new camera, hopefully I can catch something on video. Maybe even put it up on YouTube, we'll see.
Obviously, it could have been any number of wild animals. So, in an effort to catch the animal in action the next time it happens, to hopefully help put an end to it, the guy starts to record anytime he hears noises outside. So the following night, the guy and his girlfriend hear some sounds on the roof while watching TV. So he looks out his window with his camera's light on in an effort to see if he can find the source of the sounds.
So we were just laying here watching the Office.
I swear to God, if I see an old man's face, I'm sending him to hell. What is it with old people? It's like they want to be Spider-Man or some shit. Hey yo, what was that?
We are.
What was that?
This is out here, but nothing like what we just heard, so it might be worth looking into. I gotta get a flashlight.
I do not approve of what I just saw. Whiplash.
Can't see anything.
The fuck? Man, go back to your wife. You are going to get.
Exactly what it sounded like.
You are going to get yourself stabbed.
Almost like some kind of a screech.
When the window doesn't provide a good view of what it could be, he decides to go outside for a better view.
Oh, you
This is what he
dumbass.
sees.
What the fuck is that? What in the fuck?
Hi.
Wait a minute.
I've just got chicken skin. Hell no.
Hey!
It's half ahead of what looks to be either some kind of creature or perhaps somebody wearing a mask. He goes back inside to gain access to the roof through his window to get a closer look. As
Nah.
he climbs up, he hears a snap, then looks to see the head again, still staring at him, causing him to possibly fall off the roof.
Nah, I've got my gun ready. If it even attempts to jump out at me, I'm shooting my TV monitor. I did it by mistake the other day. I'm going to do it again on purpose this time.
Where the hell did it go?
Oh God! Oh! Oh!
No other information is known of this video. Was it some kind of creature? Some people in the comments were saying it could be an owl. Others think it was a
That
person
is
in a
not-
mask
oh.
with malintent, possibly trying to break into the house. And some believe this was footage of a rake.
I'm sorry. I don't know a garden tool that is able to gain sentience and look like some old dude with red eyes. Or maybe I'm just misunderstanding what the fuck you just said, but whatever.
Imagine being home alone at night as a teenager in a big empty house, and imagine that you start hearing noises from up in the attic. That's exactly what happened to 17-year-old Stephen Braun.
Okay, really? My age and... Okay, that's terrifying.
He called his dad, who was at work, and his dad sounded concerned and told him to go upstairs and check on the hot water heater, which is actually in their attic, a very uncommon place to find a water heater. Steven's dad was worried that something was wrong with the water heater and that the sounds he was hearing were coming from it. So Steven obliged and proceeded to go up into the attic, but not without recording.
Oh god, yeah, well, technically that's what you want to do, cause, yeah. Oh god, I feel terrified for this kid.
As Steven checked the water heater and saw that it was completely fine, he then appeared to be leaving the attic, and that's when he heard a sound that caught his attention.
Fuck. Ah!
As Steven heard something come from inside a large, long box, he took a closer look at it and saw someone's eye peeking out one of the holes. Understandably, the 17-year-old was probably in shock and unable to do anything besides stop recording and run out of the attic. He says he locked himself in his room to call his dad, and his dad simply told him to hang up and call 911, and that's what he did. As Steven was in his room, he heard the footsteps of someone leaving the attic and then running down the stairs of the house and out the front door. As has clearly happened way too many times before, by the time police showed up, it was way too late to catch the intruder. Oddly enough, nothing was stolen from the attic or the rest of the house, but it's unknown for how long exactly someone was up in the attic, or what they were doing up there.
That is going to be ingrained in my head for the rest of my... And yes, I did shoot the TV screen.
In this video,
That was actually more terrible.
A young couple who just recently moved into their new home started hearing noises from up above in the attic. So the man decides to go up there with a light and camera and check it out.
Oh, I've seen this. I've seen this. That lady is absolutely terrified, but rightly so.
The man looks around for several minutes and doesn't see anything out of the ordinary.
Dude.
As the wife is clearly very distressed and scared, the man maintains a calm, reassuring demeanor about the situation.
Well, if he freaks out, his wife's going to just lose it. You can't show weakness.
The man descends back down the ladder. The woman keeps recording and inadvertently catches something disturbing on video.
Yeah, this video will remain to... Yeah, nah. Also... My god.
It appears to be the wrinkled, gray face of an old man, peering down at the couple for a very brief moment with an eerie expression. It quickly disappears back into the darkness above, going undetected by the couple. Some people believe that it may have been a homeless elderly man who was taking refuge in the couple's attic. However, given the small size of the attic, it would be very unlikely for the man not to have spotted a squatter up there.
Yep. Which is why I am staying in this house for the rest of my life, because I know that we're the only people here.
Josue Silva started hearing noises coming from his roof that he had been hearing the night before as well. This footage is over 10 years old now, and the person who recorded this didn't have much money to afford a better camera, and high-quality cameras weren't as easily available back then.
Oh, of course they weren't.
Josue swears that the footage you're about to see is legitimate.
I've been hearing some noises on my roof tonight. See that? See that? Yesterday I heard the same thing, but I didn't want to come out. Camera wasn't charged. I hear something up there. See that? See that?
Man is recording at 360p. I can't imagine the terror this guy's about to endure. Can I not see this house spawn?
These are the shingles. See? Oh my god.
Okay, time to leave.
After seeing this rake-like creature, Josue falls from the roof from shock.
Is
Grabs
it
right
smiling?
to the roof, but the creature was no longer there. The creature seems to be bald with a large round head, but no facial features can be seen.
That's just the outline of it. Fucking hell. Free disturbing. No, I'm not going to traumatize people. Right. What the fuck? Free disturbing. Yeah. Okay. That kid has some issues that drew that.
An impulse.
Thick if you gaze.
Powers us.
Hippies. Fucking hell.
July 15th, 1976, Chowchilla, California. A day that the town would like to forget forever, yet remains a part of its history. At around 4 p.m., school bus driver Ed Ray was driving 26 students of Dairyland Elementary School home from a summer class trip to the Chowchilla Fairground swimming pool.
Nice.
Ray was described as a humble rancher with a humble day job. Stocky, about 55 years old, a guy you would not want to pick a fight with, a guy who works with his hands and doesn't talk much. On this particular day, Ed's bus was rowdy, but the kids all loved him for his patience and reliability.
Aww.
The kids were all loud and excited after just having spent the afternoon swimming. Some of them were even singing, but when the bus turns onto Avenue 21, Ray sees a white Dodge van blocking the road with its door open. He tries to weave around the empty van when a guy in overalls with a pantyhose covering his face jumps out in front of the bus with a revolver. The man walks to the driver's side window and asks Ed, with no intimidation in his voice, "Would you open the door, please?" Ed opens it. Two more identically dressed figures jump in, one with a rifle, which is quickly pointed at Ed. Everybody goes to the back of the bus. The one without a rifle starts to drive, and the one with the revolver hops in the van to follow them. They drive about a mile and park the bus in a bamboo thicket. The entire ride was apparently so silent that it added to the pure horror of it. The bus was hidden near the Chowchilla River, and 12 kids were ushered into the white van that was following the bus.
Oh.
Ray and the other 14 kids got into the back of the second van that was waiting at the location, this one green. There was a partition separating the driver's seat to the back of the van, and all the windows were sealed. Ed and all the kids sat in the backs of these vans for 11 whole hours, in the pitch black and extreme heats, all the while scared for their lives, not knowing what was going to happen next. Some of the older kids started to sing songs to try to lighten the incredibly horrible setting and make the younger kids feel better. Songs like "If You're Happy and You Know It." Meanwhile, back in town, it only took 15 minutes after the bus not showing up that parents began to wonder what was going on. That's how punctual Ed always was. Within the hour, the missing bus was being talked about on the local news stations.
Wow.
Parents helped police by tracing the route the bus usually took, and by that evening, they found the abandoned bus. Within hours, 30 FBI agents arrived on the scene, and an intense investigation was underway to find the kids and Ed. Late that night, the vans finally arrive at a rock quarry 100 miles away in Livermore, 3:30 in the morning, at which point Ed had been awake for 24 hours. The back doors of the van swing open, and two guys are waiting. Ed is the first one out. He's handed a flashlight, and then told to strip, and then go down a hole with a ladder in it. Above ground, roll call is being taken for the children, and their names are written as they're made to leave the bus one by one. Then they're stripped and sent to join Ed down the ladder into what was referred to as the hole, which turned out to be an old moving van, which had been placed in a large dugout hole 12 feet underground. Ed immediately worried that the ceiling would cave in or that they'd suffocate. However, there were two air shafts, hoses that ran above ground to a tree. There were also some mattresses on the ground and a pathetic amount of necessities. Wonder Bread, peanut butter, potato chips, water jugs, and some holes carved for toilets. After all the kids were inside, one of the captors said, "We'll be back for you." Then a steel plate slid over the entrance and was weighted down by something. They of course begged to be let out, and many of the younger children screamed. Then they heard repeated thumps on top of the van. They couldn't see it, but their captors were shoveling dirt on top of the van, burying them alive. Panic ensued in the trailer when it was realized what was happening. Ed tried his best to keep everybody calm. Ed and Michael Marshall, the oldest kid in the group, who was 14, started to push at the lid to try and open it, but it was pointless. So by now, Ed instructed everyone to eat and get some rest.
That is
12 hours later, the food was all already consumed, and the ventilation system that was keeping the van cool stopped working, and the hot July air started to fill the tight space.
You
On top of that,
sickos.
the roof of the van started to cave in, and Ed knew time was very limited. The survivors, now adults, recount that around this time, as the walls and ceiling of the van were caving in and there was no food left, that they were starting to realize they wouldn't likely make it out of this alive. Ed and Michael started to pile up the mattresses in the trailer to get to the roof. which had been covered with a heavy sheet of metal and weighted down with two 100-pound industrial batteries. After hours of effort, Ray and Michael wedged the lid open with a piece of wood and moved the batteries. They then dug away the remainder of the debris blocking the entrance. 16 hours after they had entered the van, the group emerged and walked to the quarry's guard shack, where a security guard called the police. Ed and the children were brought to a nearby jail, where they were fed and interviewed by police. So the captors were three men: Frederick Newall Woods, James Schoenfeld, and his brother Richard. Frederick's family owned the quarry that the van was buried at. The three men were finding themselves in financial struggles, so they planned to hijack the bus and demand a $5 million ransom to release the group. The men would flee when they saw the group escaped, though, but they were found after a 2-week manhunt.
Yeah.
They were found guilty and sentenced to life with the possibility of parole. Richard Schoenfeld was released in 2012, and James Schoenfeld was paroled on August 7, 2015. Frederick Woods was denied parole 15 times because he owned the quarry. However, in March of this year, he was granted parole as well. Rightfully so, people of Chowchilla and people around the world were sickened at the fact that the three men who committed this kind of monstrous act could ever roam the streets again.
Yeah.
If Michael and Ed hadn't stepped up and dug the group out of that van, they likely would not have survived. Ed Ray died at 91 in May 17th of 2012, but he is still to this day remembered as a hero.
Absolute. And
What you just heard,
as he should be. As he fucking should be. My God, that is a horrifying thought. Like, that is, my God. See, this is what I don't get. Like, okay, I can kind of understand why those three older men decided to do it, because they were financially fucked and they were trying to get. But you do not kidnap a bunch of children. Although, I can see why these people would do this sort of crazy arse shit, but I wish I couldn't. And that's just. I hope people like this just die one of these days. Like, disgusting.
Perhaps be the most well-known near tragedy to happen to a school bus full of children. However, it's a big world, and there are unfortunately many other horrific events that don't end up on the news. Then 14-year-old Donald, who wished to have his last name left out, was a student at a high school in Virginia and a member of the school's band. The bus driver's name was Robert, but everyone called him Bob. Like Ed Ray, he also seemed to enjoy his job and enjoyed the company of the students he drove, albeit these students were a little older. On October 20th of 1995, Bob was driving a class of bands.
Okay, first off, guys, I have no idea whether these stories are going to be good or bad ending, but if it does end badly, I am deeply apologetic about what I've just watched. Here we go.
Students to and from their field trip. Donald was in this bus. The festival they went to ended late at night, around 10, and the drive back to the school where the students would be dropped off was a 45-minute drive away. The bus was on Route 58, a highway that runs through Virginia. Given the rural setting, there were basically no other cars on the road, but even when one car was relatively close to the back of the bus, it wasn't any cause for alarm at first. But when the car would start to tailgate the bus, instead of simply going around it, especially when the bus and the car were the only vehicles in sight, the students near the back of the bus started to realize and discuss amongst themselves how strange it was. Bob the bus driver would switch into the left lane to get the driver off his ass, and all the kids watched as the car floored it past the bus in the right lane. Some kids shouting things out the windows, to which the chaperone on the bus told the kids to knock it off. Donald recalls thinking the car was gone and it was just some aggressive late-night driver, when suddenly the bus slammed on the brakes so hard that everybody was slightly lifted from their seats, and there was an ear-piercing shriek from the brakes. The bus came to a halt on the middle of the highway, and Bob told everyone to remain calm. The bus went into reverse for a few moments, then back in drive to another halt. Bob shouted at everybody on board the bus to keep quiet and don't panic. And hearing those words made Donald, along with his friends he was sitting with, and every other student on the bus whisper amongst themselves nervously. There was shouting from outside the bus from multiple men's voices. Then the bus doors opened, and two men wearing black pullover masks armed with handguns came on board, yelling at everyone on the bus to shut up in response to a few students near the front screaming. One of the men with the guns announced to the entire bus to empty their wallets of all cash and take any jewelry off and to give it to them.
See, America, you you say that having guns allows you to feel defended. Okay, explain to yourself when children are on the bad end of a gun. This is no. I want to shoot Americans. I honestly want to just take away that fucking letter of independence. Because of it, we now have to deal with fucking school shootings. Yeah, I saw the fucking BBC news about Texas. Yeah, that fucking wouldn't have happened if there were no guns.
They went row to row with
Retards.
their guns pointed at the kids, as each student took out their wallets and placed whatever small amounts of money broke high school students could be carrying in their wallets into the plastic bag the guy was holding, and the girls would take off their jewelry. Some students would scream as the gun was pointed in their faces, which would be a natural reaction for some. Donald described the moment he had a gun pointed at his head at 14 as emotionally traumatizing, that he felt his entire existence would end if he moved or looked at the guy the wrong way. The men didn't even make it to the back of the bus before they decided to leave in a hurry, most likely panicked that other cars would pass by and stop. The car floated away down Route 58 with its lights off. Its license plates had been covered, indicating it was a planned attack, if the guns and masks weren't already indication enough. Everyone on board made it home okay. Just most of the students, as well as Bob and the chaperone, had been robbed. Unfortunately, bus robberies are a common thing, though, and while most probably aren't caught on video, what you're about to see was
Oh,
a school bus traveling along the N4 in Whitbank one Friday night this past February
Right,
was
well-
attacked by armed robbers. The teachers did not know it at the time, but the robbers had laid out rocks on the highway, intending to cause damage to vehicles so that the drivers would stop and the robbers could steal from them at gunpoint. The bus was carrying 4 teachers and the driver. There were no pupils in the vehicle. They were traveling back to the school after an athletics meeting when they hit
Okay.
the rocks and ruptured a tire. There were 3 robbers. 2 were armed with guns and 1 with a knife.
okay. I know there's a knife. I know Britain isn't any good for like knives, but yeah. If this was in my man has a Glock.
The assailants stole cell phones, cash, jewelry, and a smartwatch. The bus driver was hit in the face with a gun and sustained a minor jaw injury, but that was the only injury. The robbers then fled the scene, and eventually a tow truck later pulled over to assist. One of the teachers borrowed the tow truck driver's phone and called her fiancé, who notified the authorities. Police soon arrived, and an investigation began. The robbers have still not been identified. Since buses can carry a lot of people, depending on the intent of the people looking to target them, they may see extra dollar signs just based on the amount of people on board alone. Even though you don't often hear about these things happening on the news, they do happen. In such situations where people are armed with guns, it's always best to just comply with their orders.
Yeah. Yeah. There are people out there who need some serious help.
Just
Benji, of
Gay. Not disturbing when you're armed with an assault rifle as a Nerf gun.
On March 4th, 2022, these were the texts 21-year-old college student Gavin received after getting home from a night out with friends. Hey, is this Gavin? Yes, who's this? It's Alex. Where are you at? Send your location. I'm at home. What happened to you? What number is this? I'm using my friend's phone. We're stranded at the bar. Can you call us an Uber to your house? What? Why don't you just do it? Dude, my app isn't working. Just figure it out. I don't even know what that means. Just send your address. Gavin was out with his friends Alex and Omar, and they were last with each other at a bar in Dallas called Parliament. The trio was getting ready to wrap up the night, but Alex stayed behind when he saw other friends at the bar. So Gavin and Omar went home, and about an hour passed with no contact between the three. That was when Gavin received the text from the random number, and as you see, they claimed to be Alex using his friend's phone. Alex had lost his phone, and he was using his friend's phone, who Gavin apparently had never met before. He was asking Gavin to call him, since according to him, it wasn't working on his phone. Gavin refuses, basically noting how silly that sounds, and tells him to call his own. The conversation picks up here, where Alex agrees to apparently call his own Uber and asks for Gavin's address. Gavin stated that this was around the time he was becoming slightly suspicious, but he still gave his
Called it
address,
creep.
however, not without making a comment about how he should memorize his address by now. He says he cut him some slack due to the fact that he was drinking. Gavin asked him why he was using his friend's cell phone, to which he got a response that Alex lost his phone. He then lets them know that they're on their way, and when Gavin asks Alex if he knew his friend, he responds, "Nah, he's cool though." 10 minutes later, the number sends a text that truly starts to make the conversation suspicious. "Can we just come in through the front door when we get there?" As if asking Gavin to leave the door unlocked. It was at this moment that he started to question everything about the interaction, from the first text being, "Hey, is this Gavin?" to the asking Gavin to call them an Uber, to now the leaving the door unlocked. He tried to call the number, but it rang and went to voicemail. He then tried to text and call Alex's number repeatedly, but it would just keep going to voicemail, and the text would just say delivered. Gavin stopped answering this foreign number now, and called his friend Omar to ask him if he'd heard anything from Alex, to which Omar said he had not. After reading Omar all of the texts, Omar agreed something was off.
Maybe call the
Called
cops.
Parliament, but there was no number listed online to call. Around this time, the number texted Gavin again, saying, "We're here, open the door." Gavin went to his door and looked through the peephole of the door. There was no one in immediate view though, which maybe at first would have implied it was all a prank. But when there was a knock at the door, Gavin checked the peephole again. There was still no one on the other side. Reality of the situation was setting in now for Gavin, as this was no longer just texts on a screen. Someone was actually on the other side of his door.
Call the fucking
He
cops!
asks, "Who is this?" Straight to the point. They reply with simply, "LOL." Gavin asks again, "Who is this?" And they reply, "Open the door." So instead of answering again, Gavin calls the police.
Oh,
It
now!
persists for a few minutes, in long intervals. Then it stops for good when the person or people on the other end realize Gavin was onto them. Gavin went on to DM one of Alex's friends, who he was hanging out with after he and Omar left. And almost instantly, the friend DM'd him back explaining that he, Alex, and their other friend were jumped by a big group of men in the street. They were all badly injured and went to the hospital. Alex's phone had been stolen, while one of his friend's wallets and phone was stolen. Alex not having a password on his phone meant all of his info and conversations were accessible. Alex's friend helped him in getting his phone locked. The police report that Gavin would get from the police who came to his house would later help Alex in getting his service provider to replace his stolen phone for him. The lack of a password on the phone meant the thieves were able to gain information, such as Alex and Gavin's conversation, where they would deduce that Gavin was home alone and an easy target. So if Gavin didn't catch on to the suspicious situation, he may have been opening his door to 2 or more people ready to attack him too and rob his house. The phone number that was being used to text Gavin turned out to be another stolen phone, therefore didn't help in finding the thief. The case regarding finding the thieves and assaulters remains open.
Oh.
These texts were received by an anonymous viewer from his dad's ex-girlfriend, who will be named Kathy for the purpose of this recounting. The viewer will be called Rob. The reason Rob's dad ended things with Kathy was because of her increasingly erratic and delusional tendencies. Her mental health was declining for unknown reasons. Rob's dad was dating Kathy for about half a year, and Rob's grandparents both passed away during that time. Rob's dad wasn't very open at first about how Kathy would start acting all paranoid about his son's dead grandparents, about how she believed they placed a curse on her. Rob's dad cut ties with Kathy when the delusions got too ridiculous. Rob was left in the dark for the longest time about Kathy's delusions, though, presumably out of embarrassment for having spent so much time with a supposed nutjob. It wasn't long after his father's breakup with Kathy that Rob would receive texts from her himself. When her attempts at reaching his father no longer worked, she clearly went to him instead. Kathy texted Rob, "Hello, sweetie, I need your help." Rob replied with, "What? What's up?" "Your father's parents put a curse on me. I need you to tell me the cemetery and plot number they were buried at." What do you mean they put a curse on you? I keep hearing their voices and having bad
Nah, I don't know if you
It
guys
sounds
can see my
crazy,
gun,
but
but
I
I'm
need to
aiming it
stop.
at my
Of
TV.
course, being told by somebody that they were hearing your dead grandparents' voices would be a clear indication that the person is completely unhinged. So Rob went to show his dad the texts. His dad laughed and told him to just ignore her. Rob says that instead of blocking her, though, he just let her continue to text him to see how crazy her texts would.
No, that's not what you do. A parent tells their son that when there is a nut job messaging them, you block and you're done with it. I learnt that the hard way after my life was ruined recently by somebody, so. And I'm not going to go into it. It was a stupid thing that I let happen because I wasn't, yeah, stupid. But point is, I've learnt my lesson and I'm not letting that person do it again.
Again, she followed up later that night with, I need to exhume their grave. If you help me out, I will sleep with you. I know you've always checked me out whenever I was in your debt.
Bruh! That's gross! I need to exhume their grave. What do you mean exhume? Is that a word? I feel like it's not a word. No, actually. I've still got like 9 bullets, so. I know you've always checked me out whenever I was in your dad's house.
Dad's house. Rob still didn't answer, and the next day, her text got a little more graphic. Rob showed these texts to his dad, and this time his dad was not amused. He called Kathy and screamed that he would be getting a restraining order if she didn't stop. When he did, she kept trying to call until he ended up blocking her number. That same night, while Rob's dad was asleep, Rob was still in his den watching a show when he heard the door.
That is so gross. Oh. Oh, no. Fuck you. That is. No. Images, get out of my head. Out. Ugh. Nah. That's wrong. Gross and wrong.
Rob jiggling. He went to look through the glass atop the door and saw Kathy fiddling with a knife in the key slot of the doorknob. She looked up at him and through the glass and started pleading with him to let her in. Rob called for his dad, and she started to scream no. When his dad came to the door, he screamed at her, and then went to call the cops. Kathy would scream back constant obscenities and threats, waving her knife in the air. She didn't leave, and police arrived to her still at the door with knife in hand. Based on her coming to their house with a weapon and not leaving when asked, she was arrested, and Rob's dad filed for a restraining order against her. Clearly, Kathy was more than just delusional and was starting to suffer from some sort of mental illness, such as paranoid disorder. This does not mean she wasn't a danger to others, though, as well as herself, evident by the knife she brought to their house and attempting to break into their house. Luckily, no one was hurt.
Thankfully. I mean... oh, no. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not... You guys will never know what I was thinking in my head, but be grateful that I didn't say it out loud, because no.
An 18-year-old girl named Leanna, living in Hoboken, New Jersey, was at a local bar with her friend on a Saturday.
18, oh god.
That's when she got a notification that someone was trying to send her a message on Instagram. Usually people disregard these message requests, as they're messages from people you don't follow back on Instagram. In a girl's shoes, those message requests are 9 times out of 10 men sending them flirtatious and often creepy messages.
Yep.
A lot of people don't ever...
Oh, interesting fact. I have an alternate account on Discord that I use pretending to be a girl. Don't ask me why. It's purely for trolling horny 14-year-olds that play Roblox and all that shit. It's very funny. Considering the fact when I act like I'm interested and then just block them 5 seconds later. It's very funny. I'm not encouraging people to do this as it's a very nasty thing, but I do it because I'm a dick. But yeah, yeah, it wasn't long. I had to wait until I was getting DM'd, but no, wait, hang on. Right, function. Not, majority of the time it was 14-year-olds, but there was the occasional nut job that was acting very, very wrong. But yeah, don't do that.
check these messages. But sometimes when you get that notification that someone sent you a message request, curiosity gets the better of you.
Yep.
In this case, Leanna opened the DM, and it was from some random account with no profile picture and no followers.
Hey, nah. Okay, right. Now this begs a question. Okay, so by the looks of the battery and the Wi-Fi thing, I'd say this is an Apple phone. You look good in that pink top. Aren't you 18 though? Shouldn't. Slightly questionable.
Asking her if she was at McSwiggin's, a local bar in Hoboken. Right away, this is cause for alarm, of course, because this would be coming from someone who knew where she was at that exact.
I'd be going like, right, where the fuck? I'd literally start looking around, going like, okay, somebody is watching me. Where the fuck? That is honestly terrifying, though. Like, people saying that ghosts exist is terrifying, but that's easily disproved. But this is generally happened. This is terrifying. Like, somebody has gone through these events and lived to tell the tale, and it is horrifying that this has happened.
Moment. Someone intentionally using a fake Instagram account. Leanna follows with, yes, who's this?
Right, I will say though, this could be easily, well, not easily disproved, but I could easily tell, like, the person who's messaging this girl, the girl probably was, the dude was probably looking over her shoulder at one point. Like, yeah.
You look good in that pink top. Are you 18 though? Shouldn't be in a bar. I won't tell anyone though. Who is this? Just a guy who thinks you're really attractive. By this point, Leanna assumes it's a prank by someone she knows, and asks who's messing with her. The person replies it's neither of the names she just mentioned. Upon Leanna asking for a selfie, the person replies, can't. The girls look around the bar for anybody that could be alone, mainly an older, predatory-looking man. They saw a few men that appeared to be alone sitting at the bar. None of them were eyeing the girls, though. That's when she says, "Okay, bye, we're leaving." Moderately uncomfortable, the two girls leave the crowd.
And you... Okay, right. This is best advice I can give you guys. Now, this could obviously be done stupidly wrong. But yeah, if you are ever receiving like creepy texts, like this level of creepy, like they know your current location or something, stay with groups of people. That way you'll have less likely chance to get shanked in an alleyway or kidnapped, as you know, you'll too many eyewitnesses. Yeah.
Crowded bar and start walking. They go to another bar nearby, which is far less crowded than the first. They sit at the bar and order a few drinks, looking for young guys to talk to. When Leanna's phone vibrates again, and she gets another creepy message from the person. It said, "This is my favorite bar, good choice." Leanna shows her friend the message, and then the two start looking around the bar for someone who could be sending the messages. And as if he was looking to be found out, Leanna saw a man sitting on the bar stool closest to the door, looking at her with a blank, wide-eyed expression. She says the best way she could describe his appearance was the killer from the movie The Lovely Bones, mainly because of his glasses, hair, and mustache. They made extended eye contact, to the point that it seemed the man was outwardly trying to be creepy, making it obvious who he was. The girls asked the bartender for help. They showed him the DM she was getting and then pointed at the man, who, in response to being pointed at, started looking around the room, in any direction but towards the girls. The bartender went over and told the guy in a loud, commanding voice to leave the bar without question, threatening to kick his ass if he didn't leave the girls.
Damn!
The man left the establishment, surely feeling at least some sense of embarrassment, as anyone would. Leanna and her friends stayed at the bar for about half an hour, only to avoid running into the man outside. But Leanna says their mood to stay out was gone after that creepy encounter, and they just wanted to know who that was, or how he knew Leanna and where she was at that moment. When the girls left, they began walking home. They were on 2nd Street, a quiet one-way road, especially at the hour they were.
Why? Okay, I'm sorry. I see after after an encounter like that, I would generally go to if I was a bartender, I would go like, right, after the shit that you've just showed me that he has sent on your phone and him being a creepy ass fuck, I know I've told him to piss off and all that, but I do not feel safe letting you walk home alone. Can I take you to your place? I am not trying to be a disgusting perv or anything, as it may seem like I am, but I generally want to ensure your safety. I'm sorry.
Were walking. They were being mindful of their surroundings, making sure they weren't being followed. But even when you think you're aware of your surroundings, the unexpected can always happen. Leanna and her friend heard running footsteps from behind them out of the blue, and there was no time to react before the man grabbed Leanna with one arm around her face and mouth and the other around her waist. He picked her up as she tried to scream and fight, and of course her friend did the screaming for her, and continued to hit at the man. The commotion caught the attention of people from around the corner, and a few people came to the scene. The man released his grip from the girl and walked away quickly. Nobody went after the man. The girls called the police there on the spot. Leanna showed the police the DMs, and 2 witnesses backed up their story as well. A police report was made, and a case was opened to find the man in question. Leanna would speak to detectives at her home a few days later, who gathered all the information she could give. They would later use the surveillance footage from the 2 bars, but the police have not yet been able to match the man seen in the footage to anybody. As a precaution, she still has her Instagram disabled to this day. If someone is dedicated enough, they can find someone through their Instagram by keeping track of what places they go to in their pictures, what school they go to, and who they associate with. That's why it often is a good idea to keep your Instagram private.
Which is why I only use Discord, because of the fact that people are like that. See, with Discord, the only way random hobos can message you is if you turn on a setting that allows people. But on top of that, you could only allow that the only way somebody could know your Discord is if they knew the hashtags and your current day-to-day name if you constantly changed it. Which, by the way, is very unlikely because I change my Discord name like every couple of months. Just because I don't feel too insecure, but I know that I should like retain like anonymity. But yeah, basically I know, right, I should, yeah. See, that's why Discord is good for this, because this shit doesn't happen. But, yeah. It is weird what people want to do. Right. Shut the fuck up, you whores! No copyright strike from you. Fuck off! Oh my god, if I get a copyright claim, I'm gonna lose my shit. Oh my god! Shot my TV monitor 4 times now.
For a while I was talking to this girl named Tori, and I really liked her a lot. Things didn't really work out in the end, but while we were talking, we talk like every night. Over the phone usually, sometimes FaceTime. This was last July.
Okay, this is what I don't get about fucking boomers or millennials. You are aware that Discord exists. Use that. FaceTime and other shit is shite. I will admit, Discord doesn't always have the best fucking connections, but it's... If you have tried using Zoom, you will know that it is a pain in the arse. Discord has... I swear that Zoom was made like a 5-year-old or a boomer that's literally should be classed as a mineral. Anyway, I'll just reload my gun.
We were in the middle of an extreme heat wave. I was playing FIFA with my friend Carl when my phone
Ew, gay!
It was Tori, almost right on time.
Sorry.
I had come to expect a call from her every night around 9. So I told Carl that we'd play the second half later, and to keep his
I'm sorry, but if you play FIFA, I automatically disregard any opinion you have. I'm sorry. It's just who I am. Anyone who plays FIFA either wants to get rage issues or often doesn't have anything else to do. I saw a guy literally chuck several, like, I think it was 7 remotes that he would throw because of the amount of bullshit he was annoyed with. I think at one point he threw his own actual Xbox 360. And those things are durable.
I picked up the phone and started chatting with Tori. She lives 20 minutes away from me, and it was a work night. So when she...
Okay, if she's 20 minutes away, why not? I don't know. Why am I yawning? But if she's like 20 minutes away, mate, then why don't you... Okay. If you're with your mates, I understand, but why not just walk or whatever?
asked me to come over. I told her I wish I could, but I'd be down tomorrow. She told me how her parents had been gone all day, and she didn't know where they were. Her parents were an interesting couple. They weren't neglectful or anything, but they were very unconcerned. Like, they'd let Tori do whatever she wanted, basically, and not really ask her where she was or what she was doing.
Man, that sounds like heaven! Something ain't right here.
Plus, they themselves would go out 3 nights a week to eat or hit bars or comedy clubs or whatever, and it wasn't uncommon that they'd be gone multiple nights in a row.
Okay.
This was one of those nights. We were just BSing over the phone, talking about how neither of us wanted to go to school or work the next day, and a bunch of other boring stuff. Then she said she was going to go cook some pasta, and she'd call me when she's done. So during that time, I told Carl to hop back on FIFA, and we resumed our game. By the time the game was over, I was expecting Tori to call back at any moment. She didn't, though. Not for a while, at least. I tried FaceTiming her after a while, and the first call didn't go through. So after 5 minutes, I tried again, and she picked up. She was in her living room walking upstairs. As she picked up, she said she was confused, and I asked why. She said because the front door was open as she went down to the kitchen to make pasta, but her dad's car wasn't in the driveway, so her parents weren't back yet.
No!
She kept acting all worried and scared, joking that someone's in her house and gonna kill her. I would laugh and mess with her, saying you're probably right.
Oh no! Oh, I fucking hate Karma, she's a bitch! Oh no, we're fucked. Rape! I have just got goosebumps, like... Jesus. Why am I yawning? There we go. Right. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready like Donkey Kong. Right, where's my shorty? Ah, there you are. The only thing they fear is you. What? Anyway. Hey!
And she'd playfully tell me to stop. She got back to her room and was laying in her bed. And about a minute later, she remembered she left the pasta boiling for too long, and she ran downstairs to the kitchen, leaving her phone behind. Her phone was left with the screen down and the camera facing the ceiling. So all I saw on the screen was her white ceiling and the colorful moving shapes and patterns from her little light projector. Then I heard Tori yelling angrily from downstairs, probably about her overcooked pasta. But along with that, there was a noise that seemed to come from inside of her room. I kept looking at the screen, curious now. My curiosity turned to horror when I saw a man's face appear in frame. But just for a second, and only like half his face. He looked directly at the camera. I felt as though I made eye contact with him for a second. Then he disappeared again. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know her house phone number, and I couldn't scream for her to run. But with my TV in the background playing the FIFA main menu screen music, he surely knew someone was on the line with her. I was panicking, so without hanging up, I ran to get my house phone and called 911, telling them to get to Tori's address immediately because of a break-in, and that I couldn't talk long given the situation. I brought the phone to my room with me without hanging up and picked up my iPhone again. It was around the same time Tori came rushing back into her room with a bowl of pasta steaming hot. She was still talking in her calm, sweet, innocent voice, apologizing for being gone too long. I didn't know what to do. That man might have been in her room, in her closet, under her bed.
I tell you one thing, if, like, at one point, I've talked to a couple of people and they've gone off for like a while, like in a different area of the house, and a couple of times my brain has thought like, oh my god, what would I do if so... I don't know why my brain does that to me. It's like it wants to purposely screw with me. But the fact that I am prepared in that sort of scenario for what I'm going to do, well, I'm not really, because if they're in like Australia, I can't exactly do jack shit. God, that is terrifying.
I wanted to warn her, but I couldn't without the chance of her being attacked. I tried to stall until the police got there, and I had the police still on the phone, listening to my FaceTime call. I heard the 911 operator tell me to somehow get Tori to go outside. I was tasked with a seemingly impossible task without making it obvious. I knew if I tried to warn her in any way, she'd freak out and make it obvious. So I told her calmly, "Go outside. Carl's outside in his car. He has your backpack." For the record, she left her backpack at my house, and I was pretending Carl was dropping it off. This worked. She got up, albeit slightly confused as to why he was dropping it off, but she put on her slides and went outside. This was when I yelled at her to run next door to her neighbors now, and that someone was in her house. She immediately freaked out and started crying, understandably. She pounded on her neighbor's door, who thank God answered quickly. I drove over there right away after that, and by then police were there and inside the house. Unfortunately, this story didn't have a totally happy ending. That intruder made his escape before police got there.
Damn it.
Likely wise to the fact that police were coming. We locked all her doors before going to sleep in my place that night. A month later, we stopped talking, because she found a better guy, I guess. You'd think after this, we'd have started dating the next week. That didn't happen.
I feel you, bro. But, hey, better thing is, at least you'll be able to see her. And not have her as a fucking... That's evil. I'm not gonna finish that sentence, but hey.
But recently we've been friendly again, just not the same. But aside from that, it really is so disturbing thinking that he may have been under her bed or in her closet, listening to us. I wish I screenshotted his face when I had the chance.
Damn it. But I will take... But... Oh God, that is terrifying. Oh no. Nah. How long has this video been? Almost an hour. I honestly don't care. I like these videos, they're good. But yeah. Anyone who says that this shit isn't terrifying, then you have clearly like some sort of balls that are next to... I don't know. You're just inhuman, incapable of feeling terror. And to that, I applaud you for your ballsiness. Right.
My best friend Casey and I usually go out together on the weekends. We're kind of inseparable most of the time. But there was this one weekend that I had COVID, and so I couldn't go out with her.
Oh, that was
She went out with
2020.
our other friends, Connie and Rachel. They went to this outdoor beachside bar that I'd wanted to go to but never had been. So I was obviously very upset and kind of jealous. Honestly, because of this, I was a little salty and not answering Casey that eagerly, or the other two for that matter.
Aww.
I went about my night watching stupid movies in my bed, sneezing all over the place and generally feeling like death. Eventually I picked up my phone and realized...
Unfortunately for you, I had my COVID jabs and I was absolutely fine. I haven't had COVID, but after I've seen my mum have it, it is not pleasant. It honestly looks like shit. So, yeah.
Connie and Rachel had blown up the group chat, asking Casey where she was, and then asking me if Casey had texted me at all. I went to check my text from Casey, but she hadn't sent anything besides her last text that I ignored. So I sent a, "Hey, you okay?" and it delivered. Phone was still on, that's good. The girls told me the last time they saw Casey was when she was with some guy at the bar, and that the next time they went back to where she was, they were gone. I told them to calm down, that she was probably still with the guy, though I would know more than anyone that it wouldn't be like Casey to leave with a guy without saying something, unless she was really, really drunk. I tried FaceTiming her, and someone picked up, but it wasn't Casey. It wasn't anybody, actually. It was just some dark room. Whoever picked it up was clearly hiding off camera. "Hello?" I asked. "Where's Casey?" I asked over and over until the call ended. I started spamming Casey's number, blowing up her phone asking where she is, who has her phone, etc. Then, to my surprise, I was getting a FaceTime call from her number. I picked up, and this time there was a man's whispering voice on the other end. He claimed Casey was fine, that she came home with him, and now she was passed out in his bed. I asked him who he was, and he said they met at the bar. I tried to fact check this and ask what bar, and he said the right one. His story seemed to be checking out, but I asked him why he wouldn't show me his face and why he was whispering. He said it's too dark in the room and that Casey was sleeping and he didn't want to wake her up. The first part of that answer made no sense. I told him turn on the light and show me that Casey's okay. There was silence for a second, and then the call ended. I told Connie and Rachel about this.
The fact that you have not already called the cops, you dumb bitch, is insultingly scary. I swear, like, as soon as I see, like, some people are just not really up to date on the whole fact that people can get kidnapped. When some person you know suddenly disappears and your friends are freaking out, you generally want to call them. Or if not, you call the cops.
They were equally concerned. After blowing up Casey's phone some more, the guy answered with an address and said, "We're here, come pick up your friend." The location was some small-looking house 15 minutes away. I told the girls, and by now they left to the outside of the bar so they could talk to me on the phone. They agreed something wasn't right, and that I shouldn't go to that address.
Call the cops!
I then remembered I had Casey's mom's number buried deep in my phone, so after finding that, I texted, then called her, and she picked up, explaining Casey was in fact home, and had been for half an hour, crying but not explaining what happened. So I FaceTimed Casey's phone one more time, and it answered to the dark room again. I said hello a bunch of times, no response, so I threw out some bait and said I'm on my way. And then the whispering voice replied from somewhere off screen, "Good, don't knock, just come right in." Then I reeled the bait back in and said, "I know you're not with Casey. I'm calling the police on you right now." And then something I didn't expect happened, and it freaked me the hell out. In a split second, the phone was picked up off wherever it was sitting, and all I saw in frame was this ugly, creepy-looking man looking into the camera. He was smiling this insanely wide smile, and his eyes were open as wide as could be. It's as if he was trying to make as scary of a face as possible. I hung up because I couldn't look at it. So Casey was leaving the bar with the guy she was with, and they got into what she thought was an Uber, but the driver and the guy she met were acting weird, and she found out that they knew each other somehow. Suspicious it was a trap, she got out of the car the first chance she got, but she didn't have her phone on her anymore. She borrowed some random person's phone to call her mother to pick her up. Casey and her mom called the police, and I met them at the house address that was provided via text. I met them there, but didn't get close to anyone to not get them sick. Casey's phone's last location on Find My iPhone was indeed at that house address, so police knocked on the door and no one answered. There wasn't anything they could do, but they suggested to call 911 again in the morning and knock again then, and that's what they did. And the next morning, an older man answered and claimed he didn't have anyone's phone, nor did any young men live in this house, nor did he know anything about the entire story. Casey says he might have been the driver in the car, but she can't tell for sure. There was not much else that could be done. Casey's phone was off, and the last location was never updated again. Do we know for a fact Casey dodged a bullet? Yes. Do we know what that bullet was? Hell no.
I have a couple of ideas of what she. Oh, that is terrifying. Oh, disgusting. People like this, who go out of their way to try and do. Why am I yawning? To try and do stuff like this is disgusting. No.
One night I was home alone with my brother. It was during a snowstorm in January. My parents were both away. My little brother was in his room doing whatever, while I was playing League of Legends on my computer.
Gay!
I get a knock on my door, and my little brother asks if I can
My God, it's like people choose the stupidest shit. First we got some knob playing fucking FIFA, like an idiot, and we got some arsehole playing League of Legends. Mate, go out and touch some snow. Fucking hell. This is completely unimportant and I should be considerate, but I don't care. Fucking play better games, goddammit.
I agreed to, only because I have a Pathfinder, which does well in those snowy and icy conditions. Plus, his friend only lives about 5 minutes away. So we left, and I was back within literally 15 minutes. I entered the house as I left it, quiet and empty. I went back to playing League on my computer. I FaceTimed my friend Jay, who was also playing. I would always do this and lean my phone on my monitor so it would be facing me and I could see the screen. This went on for a solid hour or two, before I heard a sound from downstairs, and I assumed my little brother got a ride back. Or hell, I assumed it was maybe our cat. I didn't go down to check, though. A few minutes later, when I least expected it, Jay suddenly said, "Mark, I think your brother's sneaking up on you." I turned around, but didn't see anyone. "What are you talking about?" I said. And he said he saw him peering around for a second from behind the wall. Now, to explain the layout of my room a bit, my bedroom is a loft, and there's a dividing wall that separates the stairway from the rest of the room. That wall was where Jay was claiming to have seen my brother peeking at me. So I called my brother's name, and he didn't answer. I went over to check the stairway, and he wasn't there either. I wasn't sure if Jay was joking around or not at first, so I pressed him, and he kept saying he wasn't lying. So I left my room to check the rest of the upstairs. I checked my little brother's room first. His lights were out and his door was shut, so maybe he wasn't home. I checked my parents' room, and then the spare bedroom, also nothing. Plus, the front door to the house was still shut and locked. So at that moment, I was thinking Jay was trying to scare me, or he just was seeing things. Then I realized our cat Sunshine wasn't anywhere to be seen, and maybe she was the one who made the noise. I went down to the den and found her hiding in the corner behind one of the couches. That was odd behavior for her, and it made me more paranoid. Then I heard something. And you know when you're in a dead silent room with someone else, you can just hear their movements. Like the slightest thing even, just the sound of the cloth of their clothes rubbing on something. I heard that slightest bit of sound from behind the sectional couch in the corner of the room. I stood up and got just one step closer, and I heard a slight exhale. It was quiet, but audible enough for me to hear it. I didn't run. I walked upstairs to the kitchen, grabbed the phone, went to my room, locked the door, and called 911. Jay was still on the FaceTime. I kept him on and let him listen to my call with 911. The police arrived very quickly, and I opened the front door for them. "Where are they?" the first thing they asked at the front door. And I told them downstairs in the den. The police started shouting, making their presence known, and I didn't see it happen, but they found the intruder with his hands up behind the couch in the same spot I heard him. It was a white male in his mid-20s. He had a large blade in his pocket that God only knows what he was planning on doing with. Thank God he didn't hurt our cat while he was down there. Sunshine hiding all scared like that also may have made me stop and listen for that 5 seconds that I did. Being on FaceTime with Jay like that also probably saved my life. I think the guy saw or just heard me on FaceTime with my friend and didn't want to witness to anything. Him hiding in the den like that instead of leaving makes me think he was planning on waiting until everyone in the house was asleep. This was my fault for not locking the door when I dropped my brother off, which I used to do because we live in a cliché safe neighborhood, but no one's ever really safe. My family was all...
That's what I thought about my village until a fucking bank robbery happened down the post office. Bank robbery? A robbery happened in the office. Post office. Fuck! You know what I mean.
Appalled, but proud of me for how I handled the situation. The intruder's name was Richard Taylor, and he was sentenced to 7 years in prison.
That's it. That's it. These aren't exactly... They aren't exactly disturbing, but they are pretty terrifying. I will give them that. What's my run time so far? Okay, I'll watch one more. Just one more. Fuck off, you gay fucks. Nee. Fuck off. Oh, 10. Ooh. Story 1 by Steve Driver.
There was a brief period of time that I lived alone. When I freshly moved out of my parents' house and before I met my girlfriend and she moved in, I lived in a small one-bedroom apartment in the downstairs of someone else's house.
Oh.
I spent a lot of time alone during this period of my life, besides when I was at school or work, and so I spent a lot of my time watching movies. Specifically, I liked watching scary movies pretty often. Even as an at the time 21-year-old guy, I still would be a little spooked trying to sleep after watching a scary movie, especially living alone in that apartment.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, what a fucking movie.
At a few points, I would even turn the bedside lamp on just to check around the room. The tenant upstairs couldn't have been footsteps upstairs or anything like that. My nerves were really starting to set in at one point because I just kept hearing noises. And to be honest, I couldn't tell from where in the house they were coming from. I got up to head over to the door of the bedroom and opened it. Outside of my bedroom was a very narrow hallway, which had a door to the bathroom, and then at the end of the hallway opened up to the living room. At the end of this hallway, though, like a scene right out of the movie I had watched not even an hour earlier, there was someone standing at the far end of the hallway right by the kitchen.
Hey!
The moonlight from outside coming into the bedroom windows and the windows in the living room was enough to see her, this woman looking right back at me. She started to walk backwards while still facing me. I didn't care though. I still screamed and backed into my room before slamming the door shut and locking it. She didn't come running over and pounding on the door or anything like that. Instead, I heard running up the half flight of stairs to the exit of my apartment, and then the door slammed shut. I was frozen in shock for at least 10 minutes before I felt okay to take my phone and leave the bedroom to check the apartment.
No.
It didn't take long. It was a small apartment with not many hiding places.
What?
It was empty.
What? This Steve retard is beyond yes, I've just seen an intruder in my house. What am I gonna do? Fucking walk around. That's like, what, How to kill yourself, Mark 1. Steve Driver to die.
I rushed to lock the door, wondering who that could have been and how they got in. I didn't call the police. I couldn't tell you why. But the next day, I called the landlord and told him about it. He made...
You didn't call the police! What the fuck? I don't know why I did that voice. I did it intentionally, but I don't know why.
A phone call to the upstairs tenant, and what I learned shocked me. The woman that broke into my apartment was an ex-lover of the man who lived upstairs. A crazy one at that. And after finding his address somehow, she broke into the wrong part of the house, my apartment. The upstairs tenant came down to my door and apologized to me that following day, but I never got much detail from him or the landlord. I still wonder what that woman was planning on doing to him.
Neither do I. Boy, story 2, Anonymous. I'll just name this person Bob.
I'm not a fan of my dad's girlfriend at all. Not from the start. Her name is Kathy. My dad has been widowed since 2019 when our mom died. And I know he's gotten lonely, and he's pretty much ready to settle with anybody now. Even Kathy. And against my warnings, he doesn't listen. I've been seeing her do some sketchy things around the house, and it's really starting to freak me out now.
Kathy? This wouldn't happen to be the same Kathy that threatened to wield a knife, would it? Please don't tell me you've just basically...
I'll start from the beginning. I have 2 siblings. My 10-year-old brother Jake, and my 2-year-old brother Scotty. From the day he introduced her to us, I didn't like something about her smile. It was just unsettlingly wide and exaggerated. Pretty soon he'd start bringing her around a lot more. I just never loved her, honestly. But at first it was only because I felt something was off about her personality. Then things started happening. She's been staying with us for a while now, and a few weeks ago, I caught her in my dad's closet while he wasn't home. My dad's safe is in his closet, along with where he hides the combination and some other valuables.
Ha! She definitely is she can possibly most definitely not be definitely after the code. I confused myself and I made that sentence.
When she saw me at the doorway, she smiled and said, "Hey, what's up, sweetie," to me, with her annoying, creepy smile.
No.
I didn't say anything other than nothing.
Okay, sorry everyone, but, cringe and fuck you. That is why I don't want my parents to, go their separate ways, because I don't want a psychopath being my stepmother or stepdad. Why did I say stepmother or stepdad? Cringe. And I don't want, the step parent to have, like, a crazy son or daughter that I've watched way too many weird movies.
Then she shut his closet door, and I walked away to my room. I told my dad about it, but he didn't seem concerned. A few days after that, while my dad was at work again, I just got back from school. I was walking upstairs to my room, and as I saw Kathy leave my little brother Jake's room and shut the door behind her. I asked her what she was doing in his room. She smiled and said, "I was just opening the window. It's hot in the house." I didn't answer and walked up to my room. When I heard her go downstairs eventually, I snuck to Jake's room to check if she actually had opened the window, and both windows were shut. Something was up.
Imagine being such a shitty liar. My God. It's like some people try to get... Like... My God. Will I stop yawning? Ugh. It's... My God. I'm sorry if I'm making you guys yawn. I don't mean to, but my God. Imagine being so shit that you go like, opening a window. And then... My God. I mean, I have a sort of excuse. I mean, I can stutter like a lot, so I can use that to my advantage when I say one thing and I can go like, wait, no, mate, like that. I can do that, and I did that intentionally, by the way.
And I knew it, and I still know it. I told my dad again, and in response, he asked me to just please be patient with the situation, and that he knows I don't care for Kathy. I didn't bother telling Jake. Fast forward to 2 days ago. Jake, my dad, and I were all not home, and Kathy was babysitting Scotty. I came home unannounced, but I wanted to be secretive about it, because I wanted to see if I could catch her doing anything again. I snuck into the house and went to my room quietly. Eventually, from the kitchen downstairs, I started to hear Scotty crying. Not regular crying, like a very distressed kind of crying. And I heard Kathy screaming at the top of her lungs to shut the F up. It was the first time I heard her raise her voice, and I believe it was the first time I was hearing her true colors come out. I ran downstairs to yell at her to leave my brother alone. She was startled and shocked that I was home, and for the first time, she didn't give me her creepy smile. She looked at me blankly and went downstairs and shut the door. I called my dad and told him right away, and that night, my dad had a conversation with her about it. I don't know how it went, but I assume not good, because that night, I woke up in the middle of the night to something. Looked up into my room. There was someone in my room, and they quickly left the room and shut the door behind them. I got out of bed and opened my door, and as I got into the hall, I saw and heard my dad's bedroom door close. I went over to my dad's room and opened the door, and both Kathy and my dad were laying in the bed. I woke my dad up furiously and told him Kathy was just in my room. She denied the whole thing, saying she was in bed. I don't know if my dad believed me or not, but he told me to go back to my room and he'd talk with Kathy. I obeyed. I heard them whispering as I shut the door. I went back to bed, and I was scared. I'm still scared. I want her out of the house and out of our lives.
Well, unluckily for you, my friend Kian, who, well, he's Scottish. He's sent an email, everyone. And so what? You know his name. His first name with his surname. His brother has an airsoft gun, which he's upgraded the springs to. That thing now fucking does a hole in a can. I dare you. Try and enter his house. You'll be left with more bruises than you anticipated.
I think she's dangerous. Why was she in my room? It's freaking me out. I worry for my family's well-being, and I don't know what we can do.
And that's why I have a can of deodorant. Wait, what? You just left that there? You dick.
This one goes back a few years ago to when I was 30 years old.
Wait, what?
I was at my condo
Who wrote this story? Paul G. Okay.
Fort Lauderdale, Florida. My condo, which I still own, is on the second floor of a decently nice building that I won't name for privacy reasons. Whenever I go down there, it's in the colder months up north, and I'm a complete beach bum when I go down there. Luckily for me, I work remotely for my job through my laptop and phone, so I've been able to retreat down there whenever I'd like. Fort Lauderdale is for the most part a pretty clean and safe city, and the specific location my building is in is no exception. That is, usually. It was the middle of January. It was late at night, past 10 o'clock. I was out on my balcony with my feet over the railing, on my laptop, when all of a sudden I heard from down below on the ground someone yelling something. They were yelling, "Yo," and "Hey you." At first I didn't move, taking the assumption that whoever it was talking to someone else. They couldn't possibly be calling up to me, but they followed with, "Hey you up there." And my heart skipped a beat, because now I knew they were talking to me. My main question was, why? I set my laptop down on the chair and looked over the railing down to the ground below. There was a guy in front of a car in the parking lot, looking up at me, and he said, "Yeah, you." I asked, "What's up?" He told me to come down there so he could show me something cool. I took a better look at this guy. Some guy with a backwards hat and tank top on.
I'm sorry. What? Mate, I don't even know you. How I know it may be cool to you, but how do I know you're not just going to jump me in a fucking street, mate? Piss off.
I assumed he was just some punky kid messing with me, so I ignored him and sat back down. When I did that, I heard him laughing as he said, "I'm gonna come up there and skin you alive, you prick." I stood up again and looked at him. He had this unsettling and sinister smile.
I just pull out a fucking sniper rifle and say that again, motherfucker. No, seriously, imagine that kid's face if, like, I'll skin you alive, you mother... What the fuck? This has a sniper and he just gets sniped. Real life, if you had no. What life would be like if it was of Call of Duty and literally no one's alive?
I realized he looked older than I initially thought. He wasn't some kid. I literally opened my mouth to shout something back at him, but for some reason, I didn't bother.
Piss off, you wankstein!
And shut the sliding door. I expected him to yell up a couple things afterwards, but I didn't hear him do so. As uncomfortable as that made me, I felt much safer being inside. I chalked it up to just the occasional coked-up Florida lunatic on the streets. But things became next level when the silence of the room was broken by pounding on my condo door.
Yeah.
Accompanied with a voice yelling obscenities and threats at me. It was the guy again. The bangs were so loud I was genuinely concerned he was going to break the door down. All I could do was yell, "I'm calling the police." I didn't faze him. His bangs turned to these carving and stabbing noises. It probably all lasted for about a minute or two, but felt like a century until he gave one more loud angry bang, screamed one more obscenity at me, and left. I knew because I checked through the peephole. I called the police after the ordeal just to show them and report it to them. On the other side of the door, there were several stab marks in it, confirming I did hear him stabbing at it, and confirming this man had a knife. I pray nobody was harmed that night. I doubt he knew me. I think he was just a really drugged out crazy person looking to hurt someone.
Bye, that's my peach. I hope you get caught.
I once spent a night in jail. I know everyone says it, but I didn't do shit. I was attacked by a bouncer at a nightclub in my hometown because some girl who I had history with was there. And she had the nerve to lie to a bouncer and tell him I was touching her and her friends inappropriately. And I never even said a word.
I can relate to that. Well, not relate, but I know what it's like when you get harassed by a girl because they think they're hot. It sucks, mate. It really does, because they think they're amazing when they're not. They're just fucking hoes.
To them. The bouncer came and put his hands on me and started pushing me out of the club. And honestly, I pushed back in my drunken state. And of course, cops were outside the bar. And between a drunk guy and a club bouncer, who are they going to side with? Well, I end up handcuffed in the back of a cop car, and I'm escorted to jail, where I spent the night. All that was in this cell was one wooden bar for sitting on, and this other guy besides me. He asked what I'm in for, and I told him for bullshit. I took one look at the guy, and I knew I didn't belong here. He had tattoos on his face, he was missing a front tooth, and he just had this face that said, "Don't mess with me or I'll cap you." I didn't want to rub him the wrong way, so I just tried talking with him if he talked to me. At one point, I did open up to him a bit, just because of my anger at the situation, and I needed to vent. During this time, I told him some delicate info, like where I was from, which is definitely the nicer side of town. I told him how I had people over that night since my parents were away, and we all pre-gamed and went to the club. I basically told him the rundown of the whole night. Since I was drunk, I wanted to just try and sleep, but he'd keep talking to me and it was getting annoying. Eventually, I think he caught on and shut up. The next morning, we had to go to court because, yes, sadly I was charged with assault and trespassing. 2 bogus charges. My cellmate had to go too. I saw the judge before him, though. He was one of the other offenders in the back of the court listening to my charges. I was released with a future court date set. A complete nightmare. But that night, when I was at home, and all the windows were open, so I heard everything from outside.
Oh, fucking prostitute. He's text me. Yeah. Fucking mongs. If a girl ever did that, I strive for true gender equality, and if a girl hits me, I ain't holding back. You may think you're just because you're a girl, I ain't gonna hit you. I hit back. I ain't no bitch.
Hearing footsteps circling the house. Multiple sets of footsteps. I started to shut all my windows one by one on the first floor. Then I got to the backyard door, which is a sliding glass door looking out to the deck. I curiously flicked on the deck light, and immediately, two dudes ran out from the light into the darkness. I recognized one of them to be my cellmate. I closed the blind to the door and continued closing the rest of the windows. I couldn't believe he found me, but he was obviously there to rob our house blind after I told him how my parents were away. He must have seen dollar signs when I told him the side of town I was in. And he probably heard my name called in the courtroom, and one quick Google search of my simple name turned up my address. The two dudes took off, I believe, because I didn't hear from them the rest of the night. I never told my parents I was arrested, and because of that, I never told them about how my cellmate almost came and robbed our house.
If I ever find out that there is a girl out there who has done this to a dude, apart from this guy, but I know this girl, I'm straight up going like, fuck off. You did that to a person for no reason other than the fact that you didn't like him. Fuck off. Yeah, I know, I swear too much, but I don't really care.
This is something that just happened to me, and I don't know how to feel about it other than freaked out. I'm not a spiritual person at all. I've been on and off seeing this guy named Spencer.
Did he get raped by a ghost or some shit? I shouldn't have said that.
I met him through a coworker one night when we were out together.
Oh, she's doing a Tinder.
I finally introduced him to my family. While my parents were indifferent about him, my grandparents didn't really care for him. My grandma especially. They both said they saw something bad in him, and he doesn't seem like a good guy. My grandma mostly. This wasn't after one-time meeting, though. This was after I brought him around multiple times, and everyone could get a good idea about him. And honestly, I started to see what they meant, because Spencer and I would get into constant arguments, and he would lose his temper fairly easy on me. For this, we'd be on and off constantly. There was one night that I felt like he was about to raise his hands to me, but he held back and then calmed down. This was when I said, "I'm done," and dropped him. Or so I thought I was going to.
Oh,
My grandma
God.
was especially happy and said I could do much better. Then she went on about how I should go find a nice Italian boy from a nice family like she always did. Anyway, not long after this, my grandma died of a heart attack.
Aww.
During my grieving, I hung a picture of my grandma up on my wall in my room to commemorate her. This was only a month ago. I'd been having a horrible month. And out of weakness, when Spencer reached out to me 2 weeks ago, I answered, and we saw each other. We had been seeing each other every night these past 2 weeks. And I really thought he had changed because we hadn't argued a single time. And I just felt safe around him. Well, only a few days ago, Spencer and I agreed to be official boyfriends.
Okay, now here's the thing that I hate about the world. People, when they hear that you have suffered something and you previously weren't on good terms with them, they will use that weakness and they will find an opening. And it hurts when they do that. I know firsthand because I've had this sort of weakness used against me.
I've been having a horrible month. And out of weakness, when Spencer reached out to me 2 weeks ago, I answered, and we saw each other. We had been seeing each other every night these past 2 weeks, and I really thought he had changed because we hadn't argued a single time, and I just felt safe around him. Well, only a few days ago, Spencer and I agreed to be official boyfriend and girlfriend, and that night, I woke up to a crash in my room. I panicked and flicked on the lamp. It took me a moment to notice the picture of my grandma wasn't on the wall anymore. I got up and saw the frame had fallen to the floor and cracked.
Yeah?
The picture frame I had of my grandma had fallen and cracked on the night I agreed to date Spencer. I held the frame in my hand, my heart in my throat, my whole body shaking. I called Spencer the next day and told him I think we should go our separate ways for a while, as my head isn't in the right place. And he blew up on the phone in anger, and that phone call proved my grandma was right about him. But that picture frame falling and breaking, what could have caused it? There was no draft in the room. Even as I imagined that it was somehow a sign from my grandma, do you realize how freaking scary that is?
What? Okay, no, okay. Hang on. Brain is having confundus. You mean to tell me that you dated somebody, you broke up with them after your family did not like him, although you were constantly arguing. Okay, I feel like I should cut this guy maybe some slack because you just ditched him after a picture frame fell. God, my God. You are a spiritual person if you believe that bullshit.
I took my Jeep on a road trip to Colorado to do some off-roading in the wilderness. I was doing a bunch of trails in the Red Feather Lakes, and I was ending the night off on the Dead Man's Road Trail. It was a somewhat challenging trail, but the scenery was unbeatable. I packed a sleeping bag and planned on sleeping in the back of my Jeep with the back seats folded down. I pulled somewhere off the immediate trail, just off the slight chance some other night drivers would pass by. But that was very unlikely. I guess people can call me a weirdo for enjoying off-roading on my own and camping alone, but I've always liked doing things solo. I use the word camping because I do consider this to just be luxury camping. Instead of being in a tent, I'm in the back of my Jeep in the middle of the woods. I ate some of the protein bars and other snacks I brought as my little dinner, and I set up my sleeping bag in the back. In case you're wondering if I was doing this in the dark, I had the LED light bar on my Jeep on, which basically lit up the entire surrounding area pretty nicely. So I finally crawl into the sleeping bag, and I'd be lying if I said it's comfortable sleeping back there. It's the price to pay for off-roading in the sunrise for me. I had the windows all closed to avoid bugs getting in, but I still heard everything outside. And then it happened. I heard a voice from out in the woods, followed by a short, loud laughter. As deep into the trail I was, there's no way someone was just walking around out there. Not in this total darkness. I looked out the windows expecting to see headlights or taillights somewhere. Nope. And I heard the voice again, much clearer. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman at first. I was shaking now, though. Someone was out there, that much was clear. Though I was hearing a voice, I didn't know what was being said just yet. And then I laid there, waiting for it again, scared to death. For a while, just crickets. Then, much closer now, I heard in a clear voice, belonging to either a woman or a young boy, "Hello, I see you there." Now I was ready to throw up. I wanted to move to the driver's seat and drive.
Why didn't you? My
I was
God.
too scared to move. I felt like if I just stayed laying down, that whoever was out there wouldn't see me. I know that makes no sense, but hiding and not moving was me clinging on to the hope that this wasn't actually happening. Then there was one loud bang on my rear windshield, and I jumped up and practically dove over the two front seats into the driver's seat. And I started the car and drove as quickly as I could manage down the trail, scared they were running after me because I could only go so fast on this rocky terrain. I was scared to look in the rearview mirror, but when I did, I didn't see anyone through the red glow of my taillights. It was a nightmare. I was tired, but drove the rest of the trail until I was back on pavement. Then I drove for miles until I reached a motel. Some people have asked me, what if it was someone stranded who needed help? And I say no way. No one's out there that late in the pitch black, laughing without a flashlight that deep on some trail. And they wouldn't bang on my windshield just once like that if they weren't trying to scare me. People are messed up. Always watch your back and be woke to your surroundings.
Yeah. My God, that roid rage.
This is one of the few unexplainable events I've experienced in my life. I was home upstairs in my room, writing my paper for my history class. As far as I knew, I was home alone. But apparently I was mistaken, because my mom's voice called out from downstairs, yelling my name. I called back, "What?" She didn't answer. So, slightly annoyed because I didn't want to be interrupted from my train of thought on my paper.
I know what this guy's going through already. Like, okay, if there are any people hoping to be parents or future parents in my audience, I know! Right, here's one thing I have that's advice for you. Do not call your children. Then if you... I get this, this is just communication, but do not call them from downstairs or upstairs. And then I realise that this is just all on hearing and all that. But don't just call them. Go upstairs and say that. I mean, yes, they might be up to something, but you either call them and then just listen as best you can. I don't know. Just don't be a dick. Please. I deal with it enough. It's annoying.
Reluctantly got up to go downstairs and see what she wanted. When I got downstairs, I looked around for my mom, but she wasn't anywhere in sight. So I yelled out, "Mom," and she yelled back my name in response. Her voice came from down in the basement. So I went to the basement door, but strangely the lights were off. I called down the stairs, "Mom," again, and she called back. I yelled out, "What are you doing down there with the lights off?" She didn't respond. I flicked on the light and went down the stairs. I heard my mom call my name again as I was near to the bottom of the steps. It was getting weird. Each time she called my name, it sounded exactly the same. Like there was zero difference in inflection every single time she said my name. I yelled out, "Mom," again, but she once again yelled back my name. She was nowhere to be seen in the basement. But then I noticed the little crawl space closet door was open. I call it that because it's a weird closet that you have to kind of crawl into, but it takes up a large chunk of the basement.
No,
That was
no.
the only place left.
I saw one of these. I've seen one of these. Nah. How do you not get red flags? So, if you guys are wondering how I've seen this sort of thing, if you guys have ever seen like a shitty movie called The Paranormal Activity, you will immediately know that I have seen the shit. I've seen a bunch of shitty movies. Yeah, I know. Right. But basically, one of the kids got locked in there after saying something didn't exist and it was shit.
In the basement that my mom could be. So I said, "Mom," one final time. No answer this time. I went closer to the closet door and got on my knees just to try and look in. It was pitch black inside, and I was starting to get freaked out. I said, "Mom, are you messing with me?" There was no response at all, just the quiet buzzing sound from the basement light. I got back up, and for some reason decided to sprint back upstairs, slamming and locking the basement door behind me. I didn't know what I had just witnessed and heard, but I went to grab the house phone and call my mom's cell number. It rang a few times until my mom picked up, and I learned that she was out grocery shopping. I told her, but she didn't believe my story, of course. She thought I was messing with her. It took half an hour of begging her to believe me that she finally went along with it, and when she and my dad were both home, we all went down to the basement together. The closet door was still open. My dad went inside, but there was no one in there. This still remains to be the most haunting, unexplainable experience of my life.
Yeah, it would be. My God, if this is actually real, I'm genuinely
I
concerned.
was only about 9 years old when this happened. I was sleeping over my grandma's house for the weekend, which I often did when I was little. It was a stormy day out. My grandma was out at the nearby grocery store getting ingredients for dinner. I was in the living room watching SpongeBob when the phone rang. There was obviously zero reason.
What is it with people? Okay, I know I'm about to say something controversial, but how can anyone watch SpongeBob SquarePants and not go, "Oh, the voice"? Like, my God, I had to listen to that and I was going like, I want to beat his fucking ass. The voice is so annoying. Like, you go like, eh. I get that I'm annoying, but fucking
Little
hell.
kid with a little kid brain. There's no explaining any decisions made. I went to the kitchen and picked up the phone, and after my little kid voice said hello into the phone, the man's voice on the other end said, "Can I speak to the adult in the house?" I said, "She's not home," and the voice responded, "So you're all alone right now?" I remember I paused for a second, then said, "Yeah."
Right. I've also seen a couple of other things, like, because there are some really sick people out there, but somehow somebody hacked a security camera inside a person's house, and it was not nice what the people then did. One dude who hacked the camera, after traumatizing the person's kids, the mum went to investigate, and the person who would hack the camera proceeded to flirt and call her out very horribly. But yeah, not very nice.
Even at my age, I knew after he asked that it probably wasn't a good idea to have picked up the phone. The person on the other end then asked if the current address he had on file was correct, but I didn't answer that. I hung up the phone, and now I was nervous. I was worried I might have just gotten my grandma in trouble. Nonetheless, I went back to watching SpongeBob. 20 minutes later or so, there was a frantic knocking at the door. I muted the TV and listened. Along with the knocking, someone on the other end cried out, "Please help." It was a man. I snuck over to the edge of the wall where the opening for the front door was to take a peek and see if I saw anyone standing on the other side of the door through the glass at the top of the door. That was a mistake, because I did, and they saw me too. The man on the other side of the door immediately said, "Little boy, please open the door, I'm hurt bad." I ran to the corner of the room by the window and closed the blinds so I could hide behind the couch. I was so scared. There were no cell phones back then. I couldn't call my grandma. The man kept pounding on the door, his cries for help turning more annoyed sounding, and his knocks got louder and more frequent. Then the pounds on the door stopped, and he started knocking on the window right next to me. The creep started saying things like, "I'm not gonna hurt you," and "Please, I'm bleeding bad." I started to cry in the corner, still hiding behind the couch. The pounding stopped finally, and after a minute, I ran to my grandma's room and locked the door. I laid in her bed under the covers with only my head sticking out. The rain hitting the windowsill and the occasional distant thunder was weirdly calming, at least for a little bit. The man on the other side appeared at one of the windows and started trying to lift it open. Thank God all the windows were locked. Now I hid under the covers completely, and I don't think he saw me in there. This was the last time I saw or heard that man. 20 minutes later, I heard my grandma come in through the front door. I ran into her arms, crying and apologizing, and told her everything. She, of course, called the police, and when the officers needed me to give whatever details I could, my grandma called me into the room, and I answered their questions. Then she sent me back off to the guest bedroom to watch TV. Unfortunately, that man was never caught, for this at least. My grandma never told my parents, and she told me not to tell them either, but she also never left me alone again anytime I slept over after that, which wasn't many times. Long story short, I was one unlocked door away from undoubtedly being kidnapped.
Right. This is terrifying, but not disturbing. Sorry.
I'm the father of 2 kids,
Oh.
15 and 10. My wife was out of the house at the time of this.
That's slightly scary. Hang on. Me and my brother are 12 and 17. That's 2 years off from both of us, although that could possibly happen, but that's terrifying.
I was in my room taking a nap in the middle of the day. My older son is always in and out all day, every day with his friends. So when I heard the front door constantly opening and closing...
Mate, I'm the polar opposite to your eldest son. Mate, I'm always in this room. Well, not really recently.
It didn't concern me. But eventually, when I heard the storm door slam shut for a 4th time, I started to get annoyed and whistled at him to quiet down. I started hearing other loud noises from across the hallway, in the direction of my younger son Keith's room. I imagined he was playing with his wrestling toys or something. Regardless, even with my door shut, the noise got to be too much. It was just like a constant thumping sound. Like, what could Keith possibly be doing? When I went across the hall to his room, the noise became more clear, and it was this literal thumping on the wall sound. I went into his room. The door was already opened. I said Keith's name angrily, and I didn't see my son. I saw some grown man facing the wall, banging his head into the wall. There was blood on the wall from his constant banging. The man gave me a side glance without turning his whole head. I managed to tackle the man to the floor, and that's when Keith emerged from under his sheets where he was hiding. The man didn't fight back. He started yelling this psychotic mumbo-jumbo, proving his lacking sanity. I told Keith to go get the house phone while I held the man down.
Wait. Hang on.
When I went across the hall to his room, the noise became more clear.
Okay.
There was this literal thumping on the wall sound. I went into his room. The door was already opened. I said Keith's name angrily, and I didn't see my son. I saw some grown man facing the wall, banging his head into the wall. There was blood on the wall from his...
So the person who okay, so the person wasn't beating this guy's kid. It was the person who had trespassed into his house was basically knocking his head against the wall. That was not made apparently so for me.
The man gave me a side glance without turning his whole head. I managed to tackle the man to the floor, and that's when Keith emerged from under his sheets where he was hiding. The man didn't fight back. He started yelling this psychotic mumbo-jumbo, proving his lacking sanity. I told Keith to go get the house phone while I held the man down. After calling the police, I was in that same position for at least 5 minutes before they arrived. The man just kept smiling and laughing and saying things that made no sense the entire time. The man was ill or on some serious drugs, or both. I didn't press charges, and I'm sure he was taken somewhere to get the help he clearly needed and to get him off the streets.
Well done for... I mean, I'm just going to say, maybe you should have pressed charge it. Oh, well, this person obviously knew what dealing with very ill people was like. So he definitely was a good person for not pressing charges. And to that, I applaud him.
I've had many night terrors in my life, and I've struggled with many sleeping disorders. Hell, I can't even count how many times I've experienced sleep paralysis. It's a truly
Final story, and then I'm down.
I've seen spiders and other giant bugs in my bed countless times, for them to only disappear as I start to snap back to reality. But the hallucinations are always so real and vivid. I always find myself jumping out of my bed screaming, throwing pillows at the non-existent bugs. And don't even get me started on the constant nightmares I have. There was one stressful week of school that I was up to my ears in homework with all my classes, and I was admittedly exhausted mentally and physically. With half of my assignments due the next day, which was Friday, I was up extremely late for a school night. It had to be like 3 a.m., and I had to be up in 3 hours. When I finally finished all of my assignments, I literally crashed into bed, and I was out cold faster than I could remember. And that night, I was having a bad dream again. The best I could describe this bizarre dream, I was for some reason in this linear building that I was trying to escape, and in each passing room I kept finding candies, like it was a Halloween attraction or something. But in the dream I was running away from something, and the something I was running away from kept laughing. It was a child's laughter, and it sounded like it was coming from everywhere. What caused me to wake up was when I made it to what was presumed to be the final door of the building. The laughing was the loudest now, and when I opened the door, I woke up in my bed. I couldn't move. It was happening again. Then there was a laughter from the middle of the room. I moved my eyes to focus to the middle of the room. There were 4 people standing in the center of the room.
Okay.
It was like a family, a tall male and female, and then a small boy and girl. They were all holding hands and they were all laughing, looking at me with giant grins.
Why am I crying?
Impossibly wide grins.
Yeah.
As I felt this tight pressure in my chest, which is common in sleep paralysis, I started to feel like they were getting bigger, or just getting closer, like they were all floating towards me. And my body...
Can you talk in sleep paralysis? Has anyone tried this? So is sleep paralysis? Are you awake in sleep paralysis, or okay? So what I mean by this is, so sleep. Best way I can explain to this. If I started screaming, would my mum run into the room and just calm me down, saying it's not real, it's okay? That's what I mean? She wouldn't have to wake me up frantically.
Body finally permitted. I threw the sheets off of me and threw my pillows into the middle of the room and screamed. But the pillows hid nothing, as the 4 figures were gone, and the horrible laughing had stopped. I had never experienced a hallucination like that, and I have had sleep paralysis many times. I had to see my doctor the next day, who prescribed me new medication. Since then, I still had my share of night terrors, but nothing even close to that.
Right. That'll be all from me. I'm just going to get this on my library so I can watch this later. Right. I think that was pretty terrifying, the last one. That was really good. That actually made me cry a bit. Not a lot, but it made me tear up because it felt really terrifying. But yeah, I'm going to leave you guys there and see you in the next one.